Hello, my name is Anastasia Ходакова and I'm the head of the Language Center High Time. Today we are going to talk about 3 simple tools every teacher has to engage students on the spot. Where I got these insights from? Well, the experience comes from my work in Teacher Training University and then from various presentations and conferences that I attended, including TESOL 4 times. And of course, most of the things and tricks and tips come from my work in the Language Center High Time. And a lot of things, a lot of creative ideas come from the summer programs for teens and kids with a focus on STEM, leadership, and soft skills. Also, I worked in international youth camps where I had to come up with various activities to entertain young people from Russia and Britain. So let's look at the insights.
Хотите постоянно развиваться в преподавании иностранных языков? Школа Дмитрия Никитина проводит образовательные тренинги, конференции и курсы для преподавателей. Подробности о событиях можно узнать по ссылке в описании.
What are we going to talk specifically about? These are markers, cards, and questions. As simple as that. And I'm sure everybody has them in their classroom. Do you use markers only for writing? If so, it's the same as using multifunctional kitchen tool only for cutting. Use your imagination and try to use markers differently. We are going to discuss such activities as color coding, dice, counters, classroom management, and revision. So let's start with circle the word on the board. In the picture, you can see teens that are racing to circle the word. This activity is good for young learners, but also it can be used with teens. And you can see how engaged they are. If you use it with young learners, that's good for spelling and word recognition. By the way, you can ask students to write the words on the board, or you can prepare the words yourself. With higher levels and teens or preteens, you can use riddles and clues or definitions. And even with exam preparation classes where they need to know a lot of synonyms and antonyms, this activity can be useful. The next is hangman game. I'm not going to go into details because I'm sure you know the rules. If you don't, you can use the video to watch the rules. So in the hangman game, teacher draws dashes instead of the letters, and students guess the words by giving one letter at a time. You can use it to revise the spelling. Again, as with previous activity, riddles and clues and definitions, synonyms and antonyms will work for higher levels and teenagers. Collocations and phrasal verbs can also be used in hangman game. But whenever I'm using that, the big question is how to make it more humane. I'm not really happy with a person being hanged at the end of the game. So please stop and write down some ideas how to make it more humane. Okay, what are your ideas? The AI helped me to come up with some variations of hangman to make it more positive. Instead of hanging the person, we can use stop the volcano or building something like a flower or a robot or a rainbow. In my summer programs this year, I came up with a rocket and the black hole. So there was a paper rocket that was moving to the black hole on the board. And when we covered animals with kids, we were putting the lion in the cage instead of hanging the person. Next use of markers is counters. As any object in the classroom, markers can be used as counters, especially in big board games. In the picture, you can see a student with cards that imitate a board game. So you can just put the cards and move the markers of different colors to show your progress in the game. Another activity with markers is expanding sentences. let's try it after I explain the rules. So the teacher writes a short sentence on the board, and teams take turns to expand the sentence by adding 1 or 2 more words. The sentences, of course, should be grammatically correct, and teams can discuss what they want to add and nominate one person to rewrite or add the words. The game continues until one team makes a mistake or can't expand the sentence any longer. So write down the sentence and try to come up with as many choices as you can, as many steps as you can for, say, like 1 minute or 3 minutes. Okay, ready? Write down the sentence. Working in the summer is... Now your turn to expand it. Markers can be used as dies. Teacher can hide 2 different colors behind the back, like you can see in the picture. And students choose left or right, in this case, green and orange, that can be defined as yes or no in short answers, a boy or girl in making sentences, or positive or negative, again, when you make a sentence to practice grammar, singular or plural. So, for example, students work with cards and or they are making sentences, yeah? So they can use it in pairs or in a whole class activity. Teacher can say like whether they make a sentence with he or she or whether they use I or they, for example. In my summer program, I used this trick to define which team goes first. So every time we were to start a new game, teams were choosing left or right, green or red, marker behind my back. That was fair enough, and it didn't take a lot of time. A variation of this activity is color coding. When you have more than 2 options, you can use different colors markers from the bag, like you see in the picture, from the box. Crayons will do as well. I used crayons as well. And here, you just need to write the color code on the board. You can use all personal pronouns to make sentences. For example, pink will be I, green will be you, brown will be he, orange will be she, and then we and they. Or you can choose 3 colors, make it positive, negative, interrogative for variation. I used this color coding activity for Thanksgiving, for example. And I wrote different things that students should come up with what they're thankful for. Like pink would be place they're thankful for. Green would be food they're thankful for. Then memory, person, etc. So basically, you just write on the board what each color means, and you can use it for different things. Let's try another activity that is called creative gap fills. It's close to expanding sentences, and it is also from the ETP Dear Teenagers. By the way, I didn't mention the source. It's a wonderful book with lots of ideas. But here, again, we need 2 teams or 2 students at least. And the teacher writes a sentence on the board containing 1 gap. Students then have to fill in the gap using their imagination and correct grammar. So if you have 5 students in each team, then each student writes 1 answer. And in the team, they have 5 answers. Students should try to use less frequent and less familiar words so that it is difficult for the other team to guess. There is no conferring here. Students cannot discuss what they wrote. And then you count the answers all together, like they count how many they have. They do not tell others their answer. And then it's turn for another team to guess their answers. They have 5 guesses, or you can limit it to 3 guesses depending on the time, or you can give it them more guesses. So they have to predict what words team A used to fill in the gap. Then you subtract the right guesses, and the remaining answers, which team B did not guess, are the points with explanation. Let's try to fill in the gap in this sentence. Ready? Take a pen and write down the sentence. There were 5 presentations altogether, but we chose this one because it was there. Fill in the gap. Okay. The next activity is called Guess What I'm Drawing. It is like pantomime, but students use drawing. They use markers. They can use protector sheets like the one that you see in the picture. And in this way, you wouldn't use up a lot of paper, or you can use the board for drawing. It's great for revising vocabulary, including idioms, collocations, and phrasal verbs. The winning person gets extra point for expanding the word. For example, if it was a verb that the person was trying to illustrate, then using the past form would give the extra point, or giving the antonym or the synonym of that. By the way, what is the person drawing in the picture? Yes, you're right. That's eating vegetables or eating healthy food. Students can also work in groups, and in this way, it can be used as a relaxing activity when one student uses only one item, draws one item at a time, like a line or an object, if it's a big picture. Students do not discuss what they're drawing. They do not talk. It's a silent activity. But they try to guess their partner's ideas. And it can be used as a reflection activity, like draw your mood today, or draw your impressions from the lesson or from the program. Another drawing activity is drawing dictation. Here is great for revision of shapes, prepositions of space, and some simple vocabulary, so it's good for young learners. Vocabulary like nature, classroom object, house, vocabulary works perfectly. So like the beginners. Here, teacher or a student can dictate what to draw. Like draw a small circle on the right, or draw a triangle in the center, etc. And then at the end, students can compare their pictures to the original and see how close they are. As a variation of this drawing dictation, you can use idioms, collocations, or phrasal verbs to draw. Here, it's a bit difficult to dictate it without having the image first. So first, students pick up a phrase from the list and draw the image that illustrates the phrase. And then they give instructions to others. By the way, what is the phrase in the picture? You can use instructions like, please draw a blue oval and then draw a big fish swimming in it. Yes, you're right. It's big fish in a small pond. Markers as classroom management tool. You can just use tally marks, write students' names, or use the funny portraits like I do here in the picture. It can be competition in teams or individual. So you're giving tally marks for good choices, reinforcing positive behavior. Like Katya is very attentive today, or she is drawing very carefully, or she is writing letters in a nice, neat way, and Katya gives a tally mark. Katya gets a tally mark, sorry. Well, it can be also used as a punishing tool, not only as positive reinforcement tool. Like here we have an alligator with teeth, and you can draw teeth or erase teeth, yes, to alligator. If students misbehave, or if a student speaks Russian, for example, there's also a person trying to cross the bridge below the alligator, and you can erase the planks on the bridge. Again, if you want to punish students for negative behavior at the lesson. So which activity would you use in your classroom? Please scan the code and choose the activities with markers that you are going to use. So the second simple tool that was on our list, it's vocabulary cards. I shall say that it's a low-level saver. A set of cards for a unit with young learners is a must. My ground rules for that is to keep them close. By the way, keeping them close is a bit challenging because there are lots of cards. How do you store cards? I've been thinking about that for all the years that I'm working in a private language school. Here you can see a shelf with special place for every unit, and the packs of cards are connected with rubber bands. That's something that works for me, and it's marked by unit, and the units go from 1 to 9, and then there is a second level, etc. But still, that is not enough for all the cards that I have. And with some of them, it's still messy. So I would like to hear your ideas. Okay, another ground rule is to use the cards at every lesson for different activities, like simple matching game on the board, when students put the cards to the word to match it. Notice how the class vibes change when you use the cards, like with this fly swap activity, when students hit the card that you tell them. And introduce a new game from time to time. There are hundreds of games with cards. It works like magic. Here in the picture, you can see a running game with cards when each student has a card, and you just tell names of two students. You say the names, and then students run in different directions, trying to occupy each other's place. So we are going to discuss these activities with vocabulary cards. A spontaneous board game, guess what it is? A hot chair, organizing of revision, and exit ticket. And of course, that's just the tip of the iceberg. There are hundreds of books written about vocabulary cards. Spontaneous board game is when you put the cards on the floor or on the table. Students walk if it's on the floor, or move counters using dice or flipping a coin. And depending on the grammar in the unit, the grammar that suits the topic, you can revise any grammar using that, not only vocabulary. They can make positive or negative sentences. Like on the floor here, you can see toys, and they can use simple sentences from the unit, like I want a bike, I want a puppet, or I don't want a bike, I don't want a train, etc. The variation of this activity is musical chairs. When the cards are in a circle, like you see in the picture, students move around while the music plays. And when the music stops, each student should occupy a card. So instead of chairs, we are using cards. And there are fewer cards than the number of players. So one student is out, and others ask questions about their cards or make sentences like, do you want a lorry? Okay, let's try out some simple activity with the cards that I have. These cards are for Tula. I don't know that if you can see them really well. I'll put them closer to the camera. So there's a museum of weapons, there is a central swimming pool in Tula, and there is what else? That's main post office and Tula railway station. So if you just put the cards like this, so you just put the cards to make a spontaneous board game, what grammar can you practice using these place cards? Stop the video and write down your ideas. Ready? Okay. So yes, you can use present perfect to like have you been to with questions, or past simple. Did you go to the train station yesterday? Or with do you like plus gerund construction? Or you can practice suggestions like let's go to the Museum of Weapons. Lots of grammar with vocabulary cards, yeah? Guess what it is? It's a very easy game. You put the cards face down in a pile, and one student takes a card, others guess what it is. Because the student explains using simple clues. Depending on the level of your students, depending on what they know and the unit grammar, they can use shape, color, they can describe the object that they see, or they can use the unit grammar like you use it to write with classroom object, or you use it to read, or birds use them to fly. With places like we had like this, the library, for example, I can see a lot of books, or with bakery, I can see a lot of bread, I can see a person, etc. So if you write the clues on the board, it will be easier for younger learners or for low-level learners to describe the card. A variation of this that works for lower levels is when everybody in class takes one card and writes clues at the same time. The teacher can give extra support to those students who can't come up with explanation on the spot. After everybody finishes, students read their clues one by one, and others guess the vocabulary word from the list. A hot chair is when one student comes to the board or sits on a chair, and teacher holds a card above his or her head or sticks the card to the board. This student asks questions. And with young learners, it works really well when they answer together. For example, the teacher holds a book above this boy's head, and the boy asks, like, is it a computer? And everybody answers, no, it isn't, or yes, it is, when he guesses the book. Also, students can answer one by one, and the student who is sitting on a hot chair can nominate a student to answer. And there can be a limited number of guesses to make it more interesting. A variation of this is a mingle of what am I, when cards are on students' backs and students move around and ask questions. They need to guess who or what is on the card. That can work with teenagers, with younger learners. And to make it real mingle activity, they can ask one person only one question and then have to move. Okay. Cards can be great for revision and for the board game that you just make from scratch. If you have any thematic snake on ladders board game with numbers, you can put the cards here in the picture. You can see the cards on different chairs with numbers from 1 to 6. So we were using the big dice and revising the 6 topics that we had in the program. It's great for end of the year or start of the year revision, because you can just put your thematic unit cards and using the numbers on the dice, revise all the topics. With different cards, just different grammar structures can be used. Like here we had places and students had to use the is. With animals, you can use cannot. So the student don't just say the vocabulary word on the card, but they make simple sentence. It's also good for thematic lessons like space days lesson, for example. I had a board game with space and just used not to learn the space vocabulary, but to revise their textbook topics. If you don't have dice, you can use fingers. With two people showing from 0 to 3 fingers at the same time, it's more collaborative, and it works if you have no dice and you want students to work together. Exit ticket. It's an activity where you just show the other students, say what it is. Why is it exit ticket? Because it's before students exit the classroom. It's great with young learners. It's also great for classroom management because young learners need time to pack their books and all their pens and their markers, etc. So the teacher waits near the door. Students put their books away and build a row. The teacher shows cards and students say what it is. It helps to finish on time, especially if you have short breaks between the lesson. It's great for vocabulary revision. As visible results, when, for example, parents are waiting outside for the young learners, they can hear students shouting together the vocabulary words. And it organizes young learners. It builds a routine that helps them to remember the words better. Students can do it in pairs or in small groups while others are getting ready to go. I'm sure you have this also slow students who are very neat and who it takes forever to pack their books. So they can come later and join for 1 or 2 words. It's saving time and it's better for big groups. And a bonus activity, you don't need to have any unit cards for that. You just need to have green and red cards. You can just use cotton to make them. And teacher reads statements and or uses the slides with pictures like I did in this activity. And students raise green or red cards, which mean different things. By the way, you can use markers for that as well, green and red. So in this, you can see students who are raising red cards. It was with animals, what animals can do and cannot do. So green means can, red means cannot. With teenagers, I used fake or real images. Fake, like made with artificial intelligence, and real photos. And they were to decide whether it's fake or real, again, using green or red. It can be fact or opinion to teach critical thinking, true or false for reading or listening comprehension. Every student shows what they think, yeah, the teacher can see it instantly, and everybody's involved. Students don't switch off while others are answering. Like some of the students shared with me, we are like jury. So they like this a lot. So which activity would you use in your classroom and why? Look at the list of activities and think which one you would like to use. Okay, the next tool and the last one, it's questions. You can always use questions to expand, deepen, personalize, or gamify the lesson. So we're going to discuss how to use questions in mini interviews, surveys, 1-minute questions, 20 questions to truth in one line, and blockbusters activity to make the lesson more meaningful and engaging. Mini interviews from workbook. Here you can see a workbook for students' answers. And I used it intentionally to show how you do it. You ask follow-up questions as you check homework or answers to exercises from the textbook. It interrupts the flow and gets dreamy student back. Breathes unexpected life into grammar. It personalizes and engages students, especially necessary for teenagers who switch off when it doesn't concern them. So it makes any sentence from the textbook personalized. For example, here you can see, like, I play football, I like winning. Do you like playing football? Who in your family plays football the best? Or I play games, I don't like losing. When was the last time you lost the game? The museum was interesting. Which museum did you go to last time? Or which museum do you find interesting from, from the capital of our country or from your city? Last weekend, I was busy. What did you do last weekend? So you just basically take any sentence from the workbook and make it a question directed at the student answering. It's a great opportunity to share and express opinion for teenagers who love that. And also you can challenge them to provide creative answers, or they can respond in a slightly playful way, using some ridiculous answers like, what did you do last weekend? I went to Miami. Let's try this. Here I have the printouts with answers from students' workbook. The right one is from younger learners' workbook, and the right one. Well, basically the gray one, okay, is for younger learners, and the whiter one is for teenagers. So I mark the answers here, so you don't have to do the task. You just have to come up with follow-up question that you can ask after students reads that sentence. Try it out. Okay, the next one is survey. Students write questions and survey their classmates. They ask these questions. Depending on the time available, they can write 3 to 10 questions and interview others. They can interview just one person, or it can be a mingling activity like you can see in the picture. How can you use it? Stop the video and write down your ideas. So I use it to practice grammar. Great for past simple, present perfect, habits, whatnot. The bracket is open because you can add more and more things. It's great for getting to know one another, especially in summer program or the first lessons when you start the academic year or when new students come to class. It's a mingling activity, so it's good to move around a little bit to get your brain working. Also, they can use questions from the workbook. And the number of questions, of course, depends on the time. 1 minute question is a great activity without any preparation. You can ask students to write one question with a topic vocabulary. It works great for teenagers and higher level. For younger learners, you can write questions yourself. Then students pair up and answer each other's question. Then they change questions and then change partners. So every student has only one question, and he or she reads this question to other students, every time, the same question. But they answer as many questions as there are people in the group. And you time the students. So when they answer the questions, you can use like 30 seconds, and then they change question, then 1 minute, and then they change partners. So it can be used as a warm-up or as a wrap-up to revise the phrasal verbs and idioms and word patterns. I use it a lot in exam preparation classes, because only when students hear phrasal verb or idiom or word pattern in the question directed to them personally, they just what it is. They ask the question what it is, and they understand the meaning of the idiom. And the student who has written this question explains it to everyone, and at least he or she will remember it really well. 20 questions. It's when you, for example, tell students something that happened to you, and they try to guess why that happened, or who did that, or what. you limit the number of questions. Here it's 20 questions, but it can be 10 or 15 or even 5. You can use the numbers related to any topic. For example, you write 3 numbers on the board if you want students to ask you, or it can be activity that students do in pairs. In this way, they write 3 numbers relating to their family. And then others have to guess what these numbers mean. Like 3, is it the number of sisters that you have? Or 30, is it the number of your flat where your family lives? With travel, it can be like the number of countries you visited, or the last time you went to Turkey, for example. Or it can be as easy as I'm thinking of something that, and then you describe, like, I have here a picture of a student. I'm thinking of something that lives in the twilight zone if you're studying secrets, like we do sometimes. Once I was very late for my class at university. I was about 30 or 40 minutes late. I was locked in a flat. I couldn't open the door, and I had to wait for a special service who broke my door. So when I came to students, I started the class with this personal story, but I didn't tell them exactly what happened. I just said, well, guess why I'm so late today. And first they come up with just ordinary answers, like there was a traffic jam, or you had a black cat in front of you. And then they started to become more creative. And it was, I think, the best warm-up ever. And especially I needed some time because I was shocked and surprised for what is happening. And I also felt guilty for being so late. 2 truths and 1 line. I'm sure you have used it many times. It's great to create positive atmosphere and great for getting to know games. It can be related again to any topic that you're covering. Like students can write 2 truths and 1 line about food, clothes, or travel, or anything else. And you can challenge again to provide more creative answers. It's a great opportunity for teenagers to share personal experience. It works with adults as well. For example, I used this tie. You can see it. Yeah, this tie. It can be also a bow. Yes, a bow. Why? Because it was in a business class, and we imitated business meeting with the elementary level adults. So they wrote facts about themselves on the tie or on a bow. It's good for supporting if students can't understand it from the first time, so they can read it. Yeah, and it's more fun because students wear a tie or a bow. When they mingle, they don't feel awkward, especially if it's used for getting to know it at the first meeting. As a variation, students can use a prompt, a special prompt, and write a grammatically correct sentence. The last activity with questions blockbusters. That looks a bit complicated, but it isn't. You just need to draw a grid with hexagon, like you can see in the picture, or squares, if you're not good at drawing hexagons. And write the first letters of answers in squares or hexagons. Then students divide into 2 teams, vertical and horizontal. To win the hexagon, they need to shout out the answer first. So the answers should be single words. And it's great for revising irregular verbs, for example. That doesn't need much preparation. But if you want to make it a bit more complicated, like you can revise vocabulary, then you need to understand what answers you have. So you need to have a map of your answers.
Хотите постоянно развиваться в преподавании иностранных языков? Школа Дмитрия Никитина проводит образовательные тренинги, конференции и курсы для преподавателей. Подробности о событиях можно узнать по ссылке в описании.
I would like to finish with a quote by an English teacher. You can read it. I like it because when you're doing activities like that, you learn a lot about your learners, about their character, about their personality. And in the picture here, you can see teachers doing a team building activity. They're all connected with ropes. In the middle, there is a hook, and they're trying to hook these monkeys. So if you have these activities up your sleeve, you can always hook your students and get their attention back. These are the books that I used to create this presentation. And if you scan the code, you will get a list of easy games we tend to forget in my VK post. Thank you very much. I would like to, if you contact me, I would like to answer your questions if you have any. And here is also a bonus presentation with other familiar teaching activities and their adaptations. So if you go to the website using the code, you scroll down, look for TESOL 2024 and get the presentation with links to different ways of using cubes and Memmer and whatnot. Thank you.